enclosure. They are considered old world monkeys. You might know their more famous cousin, Rafiki from The Lion King. He was a mandrill with a colourful face and colourful bottom. Our drill monkeys, the dominant male, is the one with the colourful bottom. Out in the wild, he will use this as a follow me marker. So the rest of his family, all they have to do is lift up ahead to know where they need to go. Now, our drill monkeys are some of the only primates that show their teeth as a sign of affection. So if you see any out later on today, make sure to give them a big old grin, and they might just give one back to you. This large enclosure off to our right is home to 3 of our eastern black rhinos. They are some of the smallest of the rhino species, weighing anywhere between 1 ton and 1.5 tons. Although they are still pretty quick, at a top speed of roughly 35 miles an hour. Now they share this enclosure with a herd of female red lechwe. They can be found in swampy and marshy areas, as well as the grasslands of Africa. They have quite a unique ability where they can release hydrophobic oil onto their legs, which allows them to run really quite fast in deep water. Coming up on our left, we have our European grey wolf enclosure. This is home to 3 brothers, Lap, Buck and Lobo. Their names all mean wolf in a different European language. Now, the European grey wolf used to be found all throughout Europe, and now mostly only in Eastern Europe. Around 300 years ago, we had some here in the UK. Now, they went extinct because they posed quite a threat to our livestock, as well as some pretty nasty folklore surrounding our wolves. For example, 3 little piggies and a girl in a Red Riding Hood really gave our wolves quite the bad reputation, as they are in fact some of the more timid animals we have here at the park. So timid in fact, but they're the only carnivores our keepers can safely enter the enclosure with. They're very shy, they'll tend to stay at the back of their enclosure and let the keepers need to keep us alone. Through the trees on our right, this enclosure is home to our white-belted rough lemurs. Both some of the largest and loudest lemurs of the 111 species of lemur found in Madagascar. They are in fact the second loudest primate, just behind the howler monkeys you saw on your way in today. Now they are known to be some of the best pollinators of the traveller's tree. They really enjoy the sweet nectar that the flower makes, and as they're eating, they get the pollen stuck all around their fur. Then as they make their way around the jungle, they get that pollen stuck. That pollen will fall off and distribute to the other traveller's tree. Fun fact about our lemurs is that they have 2 tongues, one for eating and another tongue made out of cartilage that they use for grooming. As we make our way around on our safari today, there are going to be a number of gates I have to open and close. It's very important that I make sure they are shut behind us for our animals' safety. Some of these gates though, they can be a bit difficult and do like to take a while, so I do appreciate your patience. Now this enclosure to our right is home to another one of our eastern black rhinos. Her name is Rua. She's 29 years of age. Out in the wild, Rua will be coming towards the end of her life, as they have a life expectancy of around 30 to 35 years. Here in captivity though, they get an extra 10 years, so around 40 to 45 years old. That means Rua does have a lot of life left to live. Now our eastern black rhinos have what we call a prehensile top lip. Prehensile means it can be controlled independently, just like we control our fingers, and it's shaped like a hook. Now they can use this to be quite picky with whatever they're eating. They tend to eat mainly off bushes, things like twigs, leaves, fresh shoots, even flowers. They are what we would consider browsers. There we have the lovely Rua, just down there on the right. Now the rhino's horn is quite the topic of poaching. Poachers will kill the rhino, take the horn for trophies, and at one point it was believed to have medical properties, and it still does in some parts of the world. But we now know that not to be the case. And a rhino's horn is actually made out of keratin, the same stuff as our hair and fingernails. Just like our hair and fingernails, a rhino's horn will continuously grow throughout their life. And so they file and shape at their horn. In the wild, they'll use rocks and trees, anything hard enough. Here at Port Lympne, they're even known to use the fences of their enclosures. So you might notice a bit of green varnish on their horns. Now the length of their horn is personal preference. You can see Rua here, she opts for a bit of a shorter, rounded horn. And on our safari you'll notice that a lot of our gentlemen, they opt for a bit of a longer and pointier horn. Now we are entering our first open enclosure, home to a number of our South American animals. Down here to the right we have Chris and Valerie, the smallest species of camelid. They are vicuña, closely related to the alpaca and the llama. They are known to have some of the most extensive and luxurious wool in the world. In fact, a pair of socks made out of vicuña wool can cost anywhere between £400 and £600. There's a dress that's sold at auction, made of vicuña wool, that sold for £25,000. Because their wool is so expensive, and also because of how long it takes them to grow their wool, around 2 to 3 years to get to a shearable length, they are a protected species. Only a very select few of Peruvians are ever allowed to shear the vicuña. They do so in a festival that happens around June time. Down here on the right we have Zuko, our first southern white rhino here on safari. The southern white rhino is the largest species of rhino. Zuko here weighs in at around 2.3 tons. It's almost twice the size of the other rhinos we've seen so far. Now, the southern white and the eastern black rhino are ever so slightly different, other than their size. The eastern black rhino has what we call that prehensile top lip shaped like a hook, where our southern white rhino has a very square jaw. This is because Zuko here is a grazer, so he eats most things off the floor, a lot of grass in his diet. As you can see, he is an excellent lawnmower. This square jaw helps him to very efficiently eat a lot of grass off the floor. His head is also a bit elongated and hangs a little bit lower to the ground, helping with his eating. Here on our left we have our spectacled bear enclosure. They're some of the smallest of the bear species, and are the only bear found in South America. They're also known as the Andes bears, and they can be found in the Andes mountain ranges. Their natural habitat though is the cloudy rainforests. You can normally find them quite high up in a tree, as they are excellent climbers, and even make their beds in trees. Now the spectacled bear gets its name from the lighter coloured fur on its face. In most cases it starts on its nose and grows up between its eyes before coming back around the other side, giving the impression that the bear is wearing a pair of spectacles. Here on our left we have Kifaru, another one of our southern white rhinos. Kifaru's name actually means rhino in Swahili. We're very creative with our names here at Portland. Now all of our rhinos, they absolutely love a mud bath. This is for a number of reasons. On a hot sunny day, a thick layer of mud will act like a sunblock, perfect to stop them get burned. And the mud will help cool them down. But a thick layer of mud will also act as quite an efficient bug block, stopping any nasty bugs biting them. So we have entered our second open enclosure, home to a number of our Asian species of animal. Down to the right, those greyish looking species of deer. They're actually antelope. They're called the nil lions. They are very resilient. They can live pretty much anywhere, although they do tend to avoid thick forests and deserts. Now their name actually translates to blue bull, and the males of the species, during mating season, they'll get a spike in testosterone feeding through to their fur, turning them blue, helping them attract females and ward off any other males. Then all huddled in a bunch right the other side of that wooden fence are our sandbar deer, our largest Asian deer species here at the park. Now unfortunately they are some very important prey animals for the Bengal tiger. We also have our Barasingha deers off into the distance. Very orange, they are swamp dwelling deers, just like the red lechway, have that ability to release hydrophobic oil onto their legs. And in the middle of the park, we have our axis deer, or chatal deer, and their name simply means spotted. They have their white spots the whole way throughout their life. They spend most of their time in forests, and these white spots are a really good camouflage. To predators, it looks like sunlight rippling through the trees. And here we have our wild Bactrian camels. There are different species from the domesticated camel, and you can tell by the humps. These guys have two, where the domesticated camel will only have one. Now they are a critically endangered species. There are less than 1,000 of them in the wild. They come from some very extreme environments, such as the Gobi Desert. Temperatures can reach up to 50 degrees in the summer and negatives of -45 in the winter. So their thick coats that they're currently sporting are very crucial to their survival in the winter. By summer, they need to get rid of their hair. And as you can tell, they've already started that process. They're very scruffy looking at the minute, and by summer they'll be almost completely bald. We also have some other pretty sweet adaptations that help them survive sandstorms very comfortably. These thin but elongated nostrils, these beautifully lovely long eyelashes, thick tuft of hair in their ear, and even a third translucent eyelid, all helping keep sound up from where it shouldn't be. Now, popular to contrary belief, a camel's hump stores fat instead of water. Because it stores fat, it can transform that back into water. Around 10 grams of fat plus a mare makes 11 grams of water for these camels. So they can go a long time without eating or drinking anything. When they do eventually get thirsty, they can drink almost 100 litres of water in a matter of minutes. Coming up on our left, we have our Mishmi Tarkin. They're an antelope species that behave very similar to goats, although they are closely related to sheep. Now, all the black you see on them is actually an oil that they secrete that helps keep them very waterproof. It sort of acts like a deployable rain jacket. And they've got these short, stumpy legs, but big, powerful shoulders that makes them absolutely excellent climbers. They can climb almost vertical surfaces. And they've got these elongated faces, and that helps them warm the air up before it hits their lungs. Now there's not a lot of food where they're from, the hills of the Himalayas, and they are very territorial. So that's why they get their own enclosure off here to the left. Now as we come down the hill, our herd of giraffe are coming into view. We have 7 here at Portland, and a group of giraffe are called a tower, unless they're on the move. And in that case they are called a journey. The giraffe are definitely some of the most beautiful animals in the world. And their spots are completely individualistic. Just like our fingerprints, no two are the same. Their spots also help them regulate heat. They pump a lot of blood to the surface of their skin, helping cool themselves down. Now, giraffe are known to have some of the longest necks in the world. Did you know, still not long enough to reach the floor. To do so, they have to splay their front legs before eventually being able to bend down to do things like drink water. Well, there are a few reasons as to why the giraffe has such a long neck. We know that they like to eat off the tippy tops of trees, as well as to perform an activity they do called necking. This is where they swing their necks at one another, whether they're flirting, playing or fighting. When they're fighting though, this really can be quite vicious, and you can imagine the longer the neck, the more likely they are to win that fight. They also have two more weapons in their arsenal. Those two things sticking out the top of their head are called ossicones and are a bone-like structure. Now when they're fighting, they'll turn their heads away from one another and then swing their necks back on themselves to try and land a shot. Now when a giraffe is born, these ossicones are actually detached from their head and lay flat against their skull. This is because the giraffe gives birth standing up. So the first thing a baby does is born from a height of 2 meters. As you can imagine, having two things fixed to sticking out the back of your head could really cause some damage. Now on the other side of the fence on our left we have our Przewalski horses, some of the last true wild horses on planet Earth. They come from areas such as Mongolia and China. It is believed that Genghis Khan failed to domesticate the Przewalski horse. Now in the 1960s they were considered extinct in the wild. And scientists had to go around to private collections to find the last 13 remaining. Then they successfully entered them into a domestic breeding program, or a captive breeding program I should say, and their numbers surged back up into the thousands. This does all mean that all the Przewalski horses on planet Earth share the same 13 ancestors. Here at Port Lympne we ended up with one of the largest herds of Przewalski horses, and in the 1990s we sent 11 back to Mongolia and China. Now over there on the left, coming into view, are our European bison. They're some of the largest mammals in all of Europe. They weigh roughly around 800 kilos, and their American cousins, ever so slightly larger, weigh in at around 2 tons. 1 ton, sorry. Now, their numbers took a massive hit during the early 1900s, especially during the First World War, but they were a pretty critical food source for Europe's armies. The numbers dwindled so much that by 1927 they were considered extinct in the wild. Thankfully, a lot of our European bison survived in captivity. Just like the Przewalski horses, a lot of them were in captive breeding programs. Because they play such an important role, in their natural habitats, a lot of rewilding projects have since taken place all across Europe, and even here in the UK, where we have a semi-wild herd of European bison in Lympne Forest near Canterbury. Now their numbers have been doing so well that 5 of their herd have now been taken off to Cumbria, where they hope to set up another successful breeding herd. This large enclosure on our left is home to our lions. Our lions are the only big cats to live in family groups, called a pride. They are some of the loudest animals on the world. Their bellows can be heard up to 5 miles away. Now we have Hunter and Lily in this pride with 5 other females. Hunter is quite an ironic name for a male lion, as the lionesses do all the hunting. They're most active during dawn and dusk, and they prefer a completely moonless night, as they have excellent night vision. Now when they do successfully complete a hunt, they bring the meal back to the pride. They let the male lion eat first, and the ladies go after that, and then the cubs go last. Now they let the male lion eat first because it's his job to be as big and as strong as possible to defend the pride against any threats. Now you may think he's in charge because he gets to eat first, but that is not the case. And the lionesses will kick out the male lion if they don't think he's doing his job properly, losing too many fights, getting a bit too old and weak, or just being way too annoying. They replace him with a much younger and stronger male lion. Now this enclosure on our right with all of the trees is home to our red panther, Hikari. Now Hikari is a bit of an enigma. He has no known living relatives, and the only thing he shares with any other living animal is the name panther, which simply means a bamboo eater. Now Hikari can eat almost 200,000 bamboo leaves a day, and this has given him quite the superpower. A very, very high tolerance to a poison called cyanide. Well, eating that many leaves does make him quite tired, and so you can normally find him quite high up in a tree, curled into a ball. Now these enclosures to our left and right are home to 3 more of our eastern black rhinos, 1 male and 2 females. Now the 2 females, we do hope to try and send back to Tanzania at some time. We've had great success here at Portland in the past, with around 41 birds at the zoo. We sent 8 back to Africa, 5 to Tanzania, and 3 to South Africa. And they've all gone on to have a further 60 offspring. This does make us one of the leaders of rhino birding and rewilding, and means that 10% of all the rhinos in Tanzania have heritage ties back here to Port Lympne. to our bachelor group of Western Lowland gorillas. We also have a family group here at Portland, up by the Palace of the Apes. I can just spot one of our gorillas in his hammock underneath that roof part of his enclosure. I'll tell you a little bit about the family group first. So in the family group of Western Lowland gorillas, you'll have the father, all of his ladies, and then all of their offspring. When a young male reaches around 10 years old, he'll start developing a ginger patch on the top of his head. This is the start of his puberty, where he'll almost double in size. When this happens though, the father will kick out his son. He will then spend the next few months on his own in search for other gorillas in the same situation. Once the young males find each other, they'll then spend the next 10 years together. So they fully develop, they lose the ginger patch on the top of their head, and their silverbacks come in. Now, in theory, a male gorilla at full strength with his bite force is so strong that it could break a bowling ball in half. Although that would be quite hard to test. Our males aged between 15 and 17. So out in the wild, their time together would be coming up. They would start thinking about setting up their own territories and starting their own families. Or in some cases, they would steal the family of an established male gorilla. On our left here we have our guinea baboons, some of the smallest of the baboon family, although their males still have some very large teeth, and their canines can be compared to the size of a leopard. We have a small family troop here, their numbers are around 30. Out in the wild though, they can have almost 300 members. As you can probably see, they are some very, very messy eaters. What we've noticed they like to do is take a bite out of their food and then simply throw the rest across their enclosure. Now veg makes up around 95% of their diet here at Portland, and the other 5% they forage for themselves. All these holes that have been dug are our baboons looking for a bit of protein. Some worms, some other bugs and insects. Now our guinea baboons, some of the early primates are quite happy out from underneath the canopy. Our gorillas, for example, feel much more comfortable when they're underneath the trees. You can normally find our baboons on the forest floor, as they only really go up into the trees when they're antagonising their brothers and sisters. This enclosure up ahead on the right is home to our Bolivian squirrel monkeys. They have some of the largest brain-to-body ratios of all the primates. They're very, very intelligent. I'm not going to doubt their intelligence, but I might just doubt their hygiene. as they don't sweat very well, the only way they stay cool is by taking urine baths. So there are some very smelly boys. Although I wouldn't mind them all completely, as they do still have some very fun and playful personalities, and are quite a joy to watch. Now that we are back here on the main drive, this does bring us to the end of our safari. I do hope you guys had a really good time, enjoying seeing all the animals that you did get to see. This pathway on our left will take you back up to base camp, a great spot for a toilet break or a refreshment. There are also a number of bins up on that top path there, so if you have accumulated any rubbish, I would greatly appreciate it if you could take that with you. I do want to say a massive thank you from us here at Portland. We greatly appreciate your support in helping us support our animals. I want you to know that all the profit we take from your tickets goes straight back to our animals. They can be quite expensive, around £6,000 a week to feed all of our animals here at Portland. So again, a massive thank you, and I hope you've had a really good time. If you do happen to have any questions, my name is Jack. Don't be afraid to ask. All I ask is that you stay in your seats just for a few moments longer. All I ask is you stay in your seats for a few moments longer. And once I stop and pull up, I let the steps down and you can disembark.
ไม่